There are a number of things that we're going to be referring to in this video that if you had told me we'd be talking about a year ago, I would call you crazy. I would have been like, wait a minute, really? That team is involved in these conversations and these players are that good and now this is the trade landscape? Let's head over to Buffalo and talk about a team that is in a potential situation where they can, because they're very cap compliant right now, acquire some names near or at the trade deadline. We're heading over to a few insiders on TSN and talking about what they said about the Sabres and their situation and how each of these conversations relates to the San Jose Sharks. Yeah, we're talking about two Sharks here today and the rumors of them each heading over to the Buffalo Sabres, starting out with what Pierre LeBrun said the other day regarding Timo Meier. He reports that the Sabres have indeed talked to the Sharks about pending RFA Timo. Next up, you had yourselves another tweet also by NHL Watcher from yesterday talking about the TSN's Trade Fits program made by Craig Button. He thinks Erik Karlsson to the Buffalo Sabres makes sense. He feels the Sabres are the only team that can do it cap-wise, and he doesn't see a fit anywhere else for Karlsson. So, yeah, let's talk about today the idea of Erik Karlsson and or Timo Meier going from San Jose to Buffalo. This is why I said at the beginning, man, if you had told me this would be a thing like a year ago, I would have called you nuts. But either way, we've made a ton of videos talking about both of these guys. Timo and Erik Karlsson have each been crazy stories to follow in this year's NHL season, both for particularly different reasons. Timo Meier is 26 years old, power forward-like guy. He's only 6 feet, but he's 216 pounds, and he scores a boatload of points every single year. The guy has 48 points in 49 games this season. He is on pace for 79 points, on pace for 46 goals as well, which is pretty nuts if I do say so myself. Timo has been a very consistent player and has been a very good player at that on a San Jose team that really has struggled the past little while here. But the caveat to Timo is that he's making $6 million a season until the end of this year and is expiring as an RFA. Since the Sharks could potentially be looking to explore that type of retool, rebuild-ish on-the-fly type of thing, a guy like Timo Meier could fetch you some significant dough should you decide to trade him away. This isn't the same as a regular old rental because he will be an RFA. The team that he is going to will have some extended rights to keep Timo Meier in their system should they qualify him, which makes this a little bit more of a safer option than just getting a straight-up regular UFA guy to be. As for Timo, though, he has been so good on such a bad team that the price is going to be pretty steep. There have been conversations about the Toronto Maple Leafs getting Meier. There's a conversation about the Devils and Alexander Holtz potentially being a return piece. But for the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, the difference between Toronto and New Jersey and Buffalo is that Buffalo is not New Jersey nor Toronto, literally the fourth and third teams in the NHL right now at the time of recording this audio. That might change because I'm recording this during the second period intermission between Vancouver and Columbus on Friday night, but at this point in time, Buffalo is not in the same sort of tier, points-wise, as the rest of these teams. You go over to the wild card and you see where Buffalo stacks up. They are currently in the race. They are 2 points away from the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have the final wild card spot. But Toronto and New Jersey each are doing so well that in your mind's eye, you kind of feel like these teams are going for it. They are contenders already. Buffalo isn't necessarily that, therefore the need to acquire a guy like Timo Meier seems to be a lot more focused on the long term for a team like this, rather than Toronto or New Jersey who could use services like Meier's right away. That doesn't discount the long-term possibility, it's just they would get a lot more out of Meier this season as well, which may lead to some complications if you're a team like the Sabres trying to outbid either of these guys for Timo. With that being said, though, the Sabres probably have all the capital that the Buffalo Sabres would want. They have good prospects, they've got picks, and because the Sabres are so fresh out of a full-on rebuild, retool type of thing, they've gotten so much contribution from a lot of the younger guys on their team, because they're sort of in this stage of building a squad up. There's a lot of good capital if they really wanted to go out there and make a trade for a guy like Meier. And besides, if you really do feel like a squad with Tuck and Thompson and Krebs and Dahlin and Power, they're going to be able to get things done closer rather than 4 or 5 years down the line, acquiring a guy like Timo Meier makes things a lot easier in that respect. He's only 26 years old too, so if you wanted to make the argument that Meier fits in with the timeline that the Sabres are trying to remain competitive in, then it makes sense. Take a look at Alex Tuch right here. This guy is 26 years old too, literally the same age as Timo Meier. So if you feel like Tuch is an appropriate piece for the Sabres team long term, then Meier is also in that same boat. However, this is one conversation of two that I wanted to have. It makes sense to me to be talking about Meier and whether or not the Sabres could or should be interested, but the other one that I really don't see actually manifesting itself is Erik Karlsson. Because Karlsson is not a young, up-and-coming defender. He's 32 years old. He's also signed till 2027, making $11.5 million. So, or per season, excuse me. So that's a huge contract, and this guy, even though he's had such an incredible season, he is still on pace for 106 points on the year. Sure, he's no longer on pace for like 50 goals or whatever it was. He's on pace for only 25, but still, if he hits 25 goals, that's a career high for Karlsson, so good for him in being able to get that done this season. But because he's played so well, there are conversations sparking up as to whether or not he could get traded and the Sharks could get some assets in return. He's played so out of his mind, bananas, bonkers good this year, that there is an opportunity for the Sharks now, more than ever before, to get rid of that contract and maybe hold on to some salary, hold it on till 2027 when the contract expires, but rid themselves of most of that cap hit, while also maybe getting some extra stuff in return. Craig Button went out there and said that Buffalo is the only team he feels is actually going to be able to get this done because they have the cap space permitted to acquire a guy like Karlsson, but at the end of the day, if you have yourselves a pairing of, let's say, Karlsson and Dahlin playing on the same line, or you have Power and Karlsson playing together, getting pointers on how to play the game offensively, etc., this could be a really good combination. It's just one that I think is so big that it's kind of ridiculous to even ponder about. You know? Like the other ones, I get it, it's a little difficult to label Ottawa as a potential landing spot. Cap is an issue there. It's an issue for every team, pretty much. But for Ottawa, at least there was that angle that said, okay, well, Karlsson would be coming home. Not necessarily like home, it's not Sweden, but it's home enough to say that it's home. Toronto is a team involved because they're involved with everybody. Buffalo, because they're on the outside looking in, it doesn't really make all too much sense to go all balls to the wall for a guy like Karlsson, in my opinion. But, of course, Craig Button is going out there and saying that it's just his opinion, so you can go ahead and disagree in the comment section if you please. But if you are a Buffalo Sabres fan, let me know in the comments as well. What are your thoughts about a trade between the Sharks and the Sabres? It's Timo Meier, it's Erik Karlsson. LeBrun says you already talked to the Sabres regarding Meier, and Craig Button says you're the only team that could actually feasibly acquire a guy like Erik Karlsson. Do you want either of these guys on your team for next year or for the end of this season? Do you want to go through an entire contract negotiation process with a guy like Timo Meier? Do you think that's an appropriate move to do at this stage of your retool? Or would you rather hold on to your picks, hold on to your prospects, and just say, okay, we don't need those guys, we are good with what we have? If you're a San Jose Sharks fan and the idea of Meier and Karlsson getting sent over to Buffalo comes up, what is it that you want in return from a team like the Sabres? They've got some pretty good prospects. Isaac Rozan is over there, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, you got Devin Levi, and then all the other extra stuff that had been acquired over the years. The Sabres have made some really good trades the past few years, dealing out guys like Reinhart, Cliff Poo, we had talked about that earlier, Ryan O'Reilly, Jack Eichel. They've made all these trades, they've gotten all these draft picks, they've gotten multiple first overall picks. Who is it that you want in return for a Karlsson or a Meier? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99, and bye.